boy, sometimes going on a few bad dates can really come in handy. We watched She-Hulk episode 5, so let's hit the intro. Alright, welcome everyone. If it's your first time here, we are two dads who love all things fandom out there, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and the Middle Earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to bring all of our insights and love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your cup of tea, you definitely should subscribe to our channel. We are here for you, and it helps us reach others who would like our show too. So thanks for tuning in. My name is Chris Matthews, and my co-host today, you might know him as a crazy, wild-eyed scientist. I just know him as Mr. Matt Parham. So how you doing today, brother?
Not too bad. Just got off work, headed home, and enjoying the ride.
All right, so while we ride around, let's get to the review of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Episode 5, titled Mean Green and Straight Poured Into These Jeans. Man, these titles, they're long. All right, so it's directed by Anna Valia and written by Dana Schwartz. So go ahead, I'll let you lead in with your review, brother. So let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 5 episodes in, and I feel like we should have been getting a little bit more ground to the story overall. For me, it's kind of getting hard to follow what the overall story is supposed to be. And, for a TV show, you don't always have to have some grand story that you're telling, but it is typical of most of these Marvel shows, especially since obviously they're connected with the larger cinematic universe. There's typically an arc here, and I don't see a cohesive arc happening. I see a lot of pieces to one, and for me, this episode should have been more aptly titled Jennifer Walters, Loose Threads or something like that, because for one, it's a little bit of a pun on the whole fashion thing that we got today. But I feel like there's a whole lot of storylines out there that are just kind of being left by the wayside, and now that we are revisiting Titania's character, we are not getting any kind of clarity on the loose threads that were left by her character from the first episode. So I was sitting there watching this, enjoying Jennifer Walters, enjoying Nikki. In fact, Nikki is by far becoming my favorite character.
Mine too, hands down.
Yeah, and she just had some great lines in this. The whole thing about, I'm laughing about it now, just thinking of her delivery was so perfect. Ginger Gonzalez playing the role whenever she tells Jennifer Walters that parading a bunch of her, terrible in courtroom. Yeah. Oh, this is going to be so embarrassing for you. I can't do it justice, but man, she nailed that line. I thought that was so hilarious. But anyway, her character, Jennifer's character, I want to spend more time with them and less on this sort of extraneous stuff that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. We got Titanium.
Agreed.
And I still don't understand, why she was released from jail.
Me too.
Through the side of a courtroom seems like a problem, no matter if you're a celebrity or not. But
damage of public property. I don't know. How do you get out of that one?
Right.
As a social media influencer or whatever she is.
Even with that, they kind of offhandedly comment on the fact that she is superpowered. Well, yeah, obviously she busted through a wall, but how is she superpowered? Is anybody going to explain what those powers are, or is she using them on a regular basis? Did we already know about her, or we're supposed to? And on top of all that, why didn't she go to the same prison that Abomination did? Clearly she's a threat, busting through buildings. So yeah, I didn't understand how she's just suddenly back and this
That's a good point.
sort of clear homage to Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, all those kinds of figures, and then she just sort of randomly gets upset at She-Hulk for stopping her doing whatever she was doing, busting in the courtroom to begin with. We still didn't get a clear idea of why. She just was drunk one day and stumbled through a wall or in the courtroom. What in the world was she doing there? But then she decides to get revenge by naming a skin product line after her. So I don't know. That seemed like another random choice, but it seemed more to feed into the cliche that her character has become in the second episode of her being there, more than interesting storytelling. So for me, I was really put off by all those loose ends just not getting any kind of clarity. I also am wondering, where's the Wrecking Crew? What did that have to do with anything? And is nobody really concerned that some random magician opened a portal to hell last week? It just seems like...
Well, Wong was.
Yeah, Wong was. We got some concerned grimaces from Wong.
That's right.
But even Jennifer's would-be boyfriend there just was like, oh yeah, she was battling demons the other day. Like that just happens in the world now, I guess, with the
Oh, in the MCU, yeah, they're used to pretty much anything. So.
But anyway, so this was not a favorite episode of mine. Like I said, I did find Nikki's character enduring. I did like the relationship between her and Pug developing a little bit more. But I felt like
Nikki and Pug, outstanding.
Right? Yeah, I thought that was fun, but I do feel like they just kind of used their relationship in the wrong way. They had them going after this fashion designer for too long. Like, it took forever for us to finally get introduced to the character Luke Jacobson. And then we finally get him, and he's basically a knockoff of Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
See, I like that. I thought that was a lot of fun. So I appreciated that. That definitely had to be an homage to Edna from The Incredibles. So I did like that.
I just felt like, what? I didn't feel like there was any reason for him to be in hiding. The other guy, at least his little assistant or whatever, was selling knockoff Avengers. That was funny.
And you got Avengers with an eye. I love that. I love that too.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But why in the world he had to be outside the the scope of the law or outside the eye of the law, I guess, was beyond me. He's selling flak vests and span.
Well, he's helping out vigilantes and people that are not following the law by taking the law into their own hands, as we see it by the end of the episode with the certain helmet.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. Really, his character in that whole storyline was just to have that moment where he sets down Daredevil's helmet. That was pretty much it. We had to get to that moment. I mean, she didn't even get a suit from the guy in time for her courtroom appearance.
No, she didn't. I thought you were getting those suits. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess none of that even mattered. Oh, that's why we were doing this, because there's Daredevil's helmet. Okay. But yeah, and so then on top of everything, we don't even get a tag scene or button scene or whatever you want to call it. So, I don't know. For me, I was not impressed by this episode. I didn't really like it. I found a couple things endearing, but it wasn't enough to make the overall piece feel very cohesive. So, rating-wise, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Yeah, I really didn't like it, man. I really did not like it.
4 out of 10.
So,
wow. Okay.
That's right.
So this is fun, this is like the first time on Fatherly Fandom where we're going to have a disagreement. So we'll just have to agree to disagree there, brother. So I really enjoyed this episode. So maybe I'm the only one that did. Rotten Tomatoes currently has a 73% rating for this episode of She-Hulk episode 5. And I really did enjoy it. I think one of the main criticisms that I saw this week was that the show suffered because they didn't have a cameo. But I actually found that to be really refreshing with this episode. I really do want to focus on Jen Walters and the crew and the cast of characters that we have established. Seeing Nikki and Pug together was awesome. And I did enjoy. We finally got to see Titania again. Finally, after like 5 episodes, we got to see Titania again. She's played by Jamila Jamil, and she does an awesome job playing this self-absorbed character that's an out-of-touch influencer / supervillain because she's got superpowers. But you're right, she does. It doesn't explain why she was in that courtroom and how she got off from that and all this other stuff. But granted, I had fun with this. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm accepting this show for what it is, and I think it's a lot of fun. And I found it hilarious that her cousin Ched, played by Nicholas Cirillo, busts into her house, with a whole bunch of the She-Hulk cosmetic products, and proudly tells Jen that, he's supporting her side business there. And so I thought that was a lot of fun. I really like getting her family members returning into these episodes, like we saw Morris, Jen's dad, did earlier on. And yeah, I just found that a lot of fun. The series, it's basically justifying a lot of the elements that we saw in previous episodes too, that I was just like, why are we watching this? Why are we doing this? That series of bad Tinder dates ends up having a major role in winning Jen's appeal to establish that she actually was using the name She-Hulk before Titania trademarked it. It also had a poignant scene where the last date, that guy that she went home with, admits that he only likes She-Hulk and not Jen. It's really heartbreaking and touching at the same time for that character. And then that moment played so sympathetically for me in the courtroom there. And when someone only likes you as a part of you, it can be a hard thing to go through. And I felt that in that moment. So hats off to all the actors for portraying those roles in there. I also love the interactions between Jen and her lawyer, Amelia. Great name, by the way. That's one heck of a good name, right? The lawyer, Amelia, is played by Renee Elise Gooseberry. And it was so pitch perfect. I enjoyed the contrasting dynamic that she had with Jen Walters. Like, Amelia is a more serious character, and our main character tends to be more lighthearted. So it was fun to see that, and to see like their kind of like friendship / not really friends kind of dynamic. I like that a lot, and how they got a drink afterward and they were cordial with each other, and they were getting to be more friends. And then when she says that, she's like, I'm so glad we're friends now. Then that kind of cut it off. And speaking of that fashion design, I did like the fashion designer too. I thought it was a fun superhero fashion designer. The guy's name was Luke Jacobson in the show, and I instantly liked this dude. I liked his performance, and he was played by Griffin Matthews, if you didn't know. So of course, like anyone with the last name Matthews, he's crushing it. Yeah, doing a great job. I like that we're starting to see a fleshing out of these main characters too. And this is why I really appreciate them not having a cameo this time around. And I find I want to see a lot more of Nikki moving forward. She did an outstanding job with this episode. So I really did like Nikki in this. It was cool to see Pug. He collects shoes, and I guess a lot of people do. I don't personally do that, but I know that there are folks out there that do that. I also really enjoyed, I was a little upset at first, but I still enjoyed it, that there was a tease of Daredevil at the end of this episode. And I'm very excited to see him pop up in the show now. There were a few articles that came out recently, and if you don't know, guys, Charlie Cox has reprised his role as Matt Murdock, Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home. If you saw that, I was overjoyed to see that. The Netflix shows that we have, I've read a few articles now, unfortunately were decided that they're not going to be canon in the MCU. So when Matt Murdock actually came back in Spider-Man, it was a nice relief knowing that Charlie Cox was going to get to play this character again. But the situation was, well, does this make the Netflix shows canon? But unfortunately, in D23, they kind of talked about this because Daredevil is getting his own show as well on Disney Plus. It's going to be called Daredevil Born Again. So it's not going to be a direct sequel to those Netflix shows, more of a reimagining of the character. So it's kind of starting fresh. And you know, I like this, but at the same time, I don't, because those Netflix shows were amazing, and I absolutely love Daredevil in the Netflix shows. I love the way they portrayed him, this grittiness, this street level superhero, and I think that it was pitch perfect for the character. I loved how they portrayed Fisk in Kingpin in that show, and his just brutality. And I feel like some of that's been a little bit nerfed when it comes to Hawkeye. When they showed Kingpin in that, he felt a little bit more gentle, a little less daunting or menacing. So I kind of feel like maybe we're going to see a lesser version of Daredevil. I don't know. But what do you guys think of Daredevil being an MCU? Let us have a comment below and tell us your thoughts on that. I'm a little worried about it, but at the same time, we'll see how it plays out. I'm still excited because Charlie Cox does an amazing job at Matt Murdock, Daredevil character, so I look forward to it nonetheless. And oddly enough, like, just to bring this back to She-Hulk, this is kind of what they did with Incredible Hulk, the one of the first movies in Phase 1 with Edward Norton playing the Hulk in that. And we've seen with that movie, we've seen many of those actors debut in the MCU as well. And starred in different movies throughout the MCU. So they're kind of doing the same thing that they did with the Incredible Hulk here with Daredevil. Here I got to definitely give props to the writer of this episode, Dana Schwartz. She did an exceptional job with the writing of this episode. I had a lot of fun, and I think the reason why I enjoy this episode so much is because of the writing of this episode. And Dana Schwartz, she did an internship with Conan O'Brien and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And that's really where she began her career as a writer. And that's probably why the comedy of this episode landed so well with me. And it was just perfectly done in my book. Because I absolutely love Conan O'Brien. And I absolutely love Stephen Colbert. So it just makes sense. So hats off to Dana Schwartz for writing this episode. I very much enjoyed it. And for my score, Matt, if you can recall, audience out there, he gave it a 4 out of 10. That's probably the lowest score we've had on Fatherly Fandom. I'm gonna give this a little different score. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I did enjoy this. I thought this was better than last week's episode, and maybe my view on this is a little different because like Thor: Love and Thunder left such a bad taste in my mouth. So the bar was set very low from watching that as the last Marvel outing that I've had. But I gave this an 8 out of 10. And all in all, I'm back in with She-Hulk, and I'm excited to see the rest of the series. I really enjoyed how they threaded the pieces of the storyline into this main plot. And they brought back Todd. Todd came back. John Bass, the guy who plays Todd, he did quite an epic job with his mannerisms to come off extremely creepy. We learn in the episode he's rich, apparently. So yeah, I'm thinking this guy's probably the leader of the Wrecking Crew, and he's probably going to end up being the big bad Hulk Todd. So that's it for us, man. We got 8 out of 10. This is a different... So some of you out there might like this episode. Some of you out there might despise it like Matt. So 4 out of 10 for Matt. 8 out of 10 for me. I did enjoy it. So I don't know what to say. It was just a really good episode to me. So let us know in the comments below what you rated this episode. We really do appreciate you guys joining us today. If you can, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and yeah. It's like pistachio ice cream. Some people like it, or mint chocolate chip ice cream. Some people really like it, and other people thinks it just tastes like toothpaste. So that's this episode of She-Hulk for you. All right, folks, from our families to yours, adios.